The Lab podcast is presented by Wolverine Boots and Apparel. As America's original work boot brand, Wolverine is a champion of blue-collar work ethic whenever and wherever it shows up, whether it's on a job site or a football field. That's why Wolverine is proudly partnered with the Lab podcast as Wolverine student athletes embody this grit and resilience through and through. Stay tuned for a special offer from Wolverine later. Before I ask you how you're doing, I can say this because I've had a chance to talk to you, and you're a really friendly guy, a great teacher, a wealth of football knowledge, but you do got a tough look about you. Is that part of being did you choose defense versus offense, or was it your toughness that kind of chose defense for you?
Oh, I think it goes back to my high school coach. He put me on defense. He liked my demeanor, I guess. And the look itself, I guess my family was in the trucking business. I guess as Jay Glazer once said, I look like a truck driver. It's why I'm not a head coach in the NFL. But can't do anything about that. I'm thinking more like a male model.
We can get you some NIL deals, Coach. Absolutely. The sunglasses, but we can get you. You look great in maize and blue. That much I will say. And I know I'm excited. I know all of our fans are excited to see you on the sidelines. And I kind of wanted to start with the big storyline was, Michigan's had a ton of success with this Baltimore Ravens scheme. And it started with Mike McDonald, and it was then continued by Jesse Minter, ultimately leading to a national title. And then Sharon Moore becomes head coach. And it's like, man, the defense was good. Who's up next? Well, we get the godfather of this Baltimore Ravens scheme in you. And I'd love to, kind of give you the floor to talk about what was the moment when this scheme was born? Why was the scheme born? And, why is this the scheme that allows you to coordinate great defenses?
It all started really with John Harbaugh, which no one understands, unless you're in that room. I mean, the Harbaugh family I have so much respect for, and all they do is win whoever they're coaching, wherever they're coaching. And John, when he hired me as the defensive coordinator, he charged me with, hey, I want to be more flexible with what we do. And, what it was, from names of the past of, going back Dean Pease, Greg Madison, Chuck Pagano, Rex Ryan, and it was just become tangled kite string of a defense where they couldn't play as fast as what we wanted them to play. And John said, let's simplify this thing and yet also make it flexible enough that you can call whatever front you want and easy ways to close the front. We went from that to pressures, from pressures to coverage. And it's a bunch of concepts that we can play to the personnel that we have. And I think that I think it helped that I was an educator when I first started this thing as a teacher, and the way we did it, it was about a 6-month project of designing this defense, and then everybody else's. They put their own mix on it, and I think even this year with the staff that we have, that Sharon hired a great defensive staff. I have one of my guys with me, Kevin Wilkins, who is an analyst. Hopefully they pass that where the analyst can coach because he's a great coach. But we have Lamar, Lou, and BJ as the main guys who all have coordinating experience. So, of course, I'm going to lean on them heavily, going back from pro to college, and it'll be our mix. This is going to be our defense. This is Michigan's defense. This is Sharon's defense. And if you take one of those elements out next year, it's still the same system, but there'll still be another little personality thing to it. And it comes down to, who's calling the game as well, which I'll be calling the games. But the defense has so much flexibility, and we haven't even talked about the players yet, but it has so much flexibility. It shows the personality of who's coaching the defense, and we're all coaching it. This is a we thing. This isn't an I thing. We're all coaching it, and I'm looking forward to this month being over with all the official visits and All right, I'll tell you, I'm looking forward to vacation. It's a couple weeks away, but also I'll be continually thinking about, different ways, different looks, different things that we can do. And, like there's a narrative out there right now. One of the things is, and I'm telling all the listeners, I don't listen to, the radio. I don't listen or I don't read articles or anything else, but there's a narrative now that some people are afraid it's going back to the old school Don Brown system. That's not the case
Mhm.
whatsoever. To me, that's profiling. Just because I'm old and Don Brown's old, you can't put us together. Um, I like I'm proud of the coaches that have come out from underneath this defensive tree.
Yeah.
That's worked with me and it's gone on. There's Danton Lynn at USC. He was with me.
Yeah.
Anthony Weaver's the defensive coordinator at Miami. He was with me. Of course, Mike went to Seattle. Jesse's the Chargers. We had Brian Duker's down in Miami. We were all together there, and there's a bunch of guys. Excuse me, Drew Wilkins, who's at New England now. There's a bunch of guys that have been through this tree, and they understand the flexibility of the defense and the success you can have.
Mhm.
So it's a fun defense to coach, and I think listening to the kids, it's a fun defense to play in.
Heard you got the big time golf itch right now. I got a little bit of a golf itch myself. Will you be playing some golf this summer?
I don't care how hot it is. I'm going to Sarasota. I'm going to enjoy Laura and I bought a place down in Sarasota a year ago. Uh, it's our forever home, if you will, because I'm not real keen. The older I get, cold hurts. So I want to stay warm when I
I
do
understand.
when I do retire. And I just want to go enjoy that house. Now you talked about the golf itch. I know this sounds crazy, but in at our place in Sarasota, we got a golf simulator.
Oh,
So
nice.
even if it is really hot,
Yeah.
that place is air conditioned. I can still get my swings in.
Yeah.
But I'll be on the golf course
I want to
every
ask you,
every day.
let me ask you this, just because I want to get to know who the next defensive coordinator is. Let's say, you're playing a par five and you have a nice clean drive and you have two options. You can either lay up and then hit another chip shot, or maybe if you hit a clean shot and you're aggressive, you can make it to the green. What are you doing in that scenario? Are you going to play it aggressive or maybe lay up?
I'd like where you're going with this, but I can't hit it as far as I used to. I'm not as loose as I used
Okay.
to be.
Okay.
I have no problem with getting going and getting on in three and having a birdie putt.
Got it. So
But
what you're saying is know your personnel.
exactly,
Know your personnel.
exactly.
Well, then let's talk about personnel because looking into your past, I mean, you've coached some all-time greats, Ray Lewis. I mean, some of those guys on the Baltimore Ravens defense, and for the Michigan fans, obviously, no one compares to Ray Lewis, no one compares to Ed Reed, no one compares to some of these guys. But you've now went through a spring ball with Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant, Derek Moore, Josiah Stewart, Jay-Sean Barham, Ernest Hausman, like those guys in your defensive front, Will Johnson.
Right.
What was your impression of that defense walking on campus? I mean, you're coming from the NFL to college, but I get the sense these guys aren't just college kids; they're pros that are still under the college umbrella.
Yeah, and I think you're going to see more and more of that, with NIL and everything else, which is probably another show that we'll talk about. But these guys, they want to win. That's the first thing that attracted me to this job. The thing that surprised me, because I didn't really know what I was, it's been 20 years. I didn't know what I was going back into with the players themselves. These guys love football. And I said this the other day. I was talking about Will Johnson, who's a very humble kid
He is.
who has just so much going for him that he doesn't even know it yet. And that's a good thing because the way he works. And as many things as we do football wise, within the program, I'll see Will on during a time out there with 10 or 12 teammates that they're just out there working on their own.
Hmm.
And I don't care what anybody says. I don't think you see that anywhere. I really don't.
Even
These
in the
guys,
NFL, when you're getting paid to
oh
do it,
no,
you don't
no,
see
no,
that.
especially not in the NFL. But they might do it someplace else besides facility. I'm just
Yeah.
talking about at the facility. These guys are working, and Sharon has spent time this spring here at the end of trying to dial them back because they just get after it. They love football, and I said this on the GM Shuffle with Mike Lombardi. If you're a football purist, if you really love football, you would love Michigan football
Mm,
just by being around the players and how they approach the game. And there's issues. Everybody has issues. You know what I mean? But it's been very. I've enjoyed every day I've been there because of their. I don't want to let them down because of their love for the game. And it's the same thing with the assistants that Lou Esposito, Lamar Morgan, and BJ Brian Jean Marie. I
yeah.
say it right. He tells me I say it right all the time. Um, the way they work at recruiting and also coach their kids is inspiring to me.
Mm,
And the older you get, Jake, this. The older you get, it's hard to be inspired. And the way they work with these kids and the way they work at recruiting, it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of work because
yeah.
we went into this thing saying we're behind,
Yeah.
but yet you can see the commitments that we're getting and the work that they put in. They work so hard. Like I told my wife, I want to use my card of no, I'm not doing that. That I can never say that because I don't want to let them down.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's been great. But like I said, I'm also ready to go on vacation, and
Hey,
they are too.
yeah, you earn vacation, but Wolverine is not just sponsoring this episode. They have a special offer for you guys, our listeners. You can head over to wolverine.com and use code Blue Collar for 20% off your full price purchase. From rugged work boots to casual everyday styles, they have hardworking gear to get the job done. Head over to wolverine.com and use the code Blue Collar for 20% off your order. You think in the NFL, where you're getting paid millions of dollars. We just saw Trevor Lawrence sign a deal, $55 million a year. You'd think, hey, man, if you're making that much money, you're going to stay an hour. You're going to come out an hour early and stay an hour late. It's not the case. You'd think you'd, be the first in the building, last to leave. But a lot of people can't wait to go to vacation the first chance they get it. And then you come here on campus in Ann Arbor. And coming off a national title, I think that's important to mention here. Coming off a national title, and it's really encouraging for fans. The hunger in that building. I mean, you get a sense, and this is a good question for you, Coach. Sharon Moore is now the leader of this team. This is his first time as a head coach, coaching one of the biggest brands in college football, coming off a national championship. You get a sense of hunger around this program and around Sharon Moore. What was your first impression of Ann Arbor in Michigan when you got on campus?
Well, I've been up here plenty of times, coming to the workouts and all that stuff for the draft eligible players.
Yeah.
And, I've followed Michigan, especially when Jesse was a coordinator. But Jesse said this to me, and I understand, and this is not a slap, this is not anything negative, but I understand his point. Jesse said, hey, what you got to understand is every day's Tuesday.
Mm.
So, and
Tuesday's a work day, right? Like is
right,
what
right. That's just what I was going to
Tuesday
say.
is added practice work day.
Yes, and I mean it's Monday through Sunday, and it's a beautiful thing, but you better have your mind right to come in and work as soon as you enter that building.
Yeah.
And as far as Sharon goes, is he a first-time head coach? No, he's not really, right?
Right.
I mean, that Penn State game looked like he was a pretty good head coach. And
30 straight runs is a head coaching decision. That's a decision.
And it's a defensive coordinator on his side's dream.
Yeah.
But you know, how that all came about was through Adam Schefter, and and you know, I talked to some other people. Steven Eisenberg, I've known for 12 years now, and when I was down in Sarasota, in my mind, Jake, and you know, from being in the pro game, I was going to take this year off and then just go back.
Mm-hmm.
And I received a phone call from Adam Schefter, said, "Hey, would you be interested?" And I'm like, "Sure, I'd be interested. You know, I want to talk to him." And I talked to the guy, and his passion, not towards Michigan, his passion towards the kids.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, this is my guy. He wants to do everything right by the players. And you know, what's the best way we can do it for the players? And you know, he had questions for me and I had questions for him, and we talked, I want to say twice, for about an hour each time when I was down in Sarasota. And he said, "Why don't you come up here?" And we talked for another 2 hours. Ward came over, and I didn't even, I didn't realize, and Sharon told me later, when I came up there, I already had the job. I didn't even realize it.
Mm.
And, you know, we got to be around some of the players, and, you know, we watched the Ohio State game, and it was just like I said before, I wish I'd come up with something even more clever, but the football pure, if you love the game of football, you love Michigan football.
Yeah.
Because it stands for what's right.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to sound preachy, but I just think it's cool for the Michigan community that's on this call to just say, when you say every day's Tuesday, like just to kind of clear this up, what Tuesday means in the football circle is you have you're off Monday, or maybe you're off Sunday, one or the other. Thursday is like a really fast, you might wear pads, you might wear shells. Wednesday and Tuesday, and particularly Tuesday, because you're coming off the off day, you're in full pads. You might have some live tackling drills. It's your longest practice. It's your longest day. And you say every day's Tuesday. You say these guys love to practice. In fact, they're staying late. And Sharon Moore has to walk them back a little bit. And I just think we're lucky in the Michigan, because what that leads to is a beautiful product on the field. And you get to see a team that there is, Jim Harbaugh would say, there's nothing like being on a ball team. And it's so simple, you just might miss it. But you can see the chemistry and unity of a great ball team, and that leads towards victories. And I think that's beautiful. You won a Super Bowl in Baltimore, so you know what elite chemistry is like.
Right.
Can you give us a sense of what the chemistry in the locker room, in meetings, team meetings, defensive meetings, what's the feeling you get in these meetings?
Well, I think that it's twofold with that. Like, I won a national championship with Jack at Western Kentucky. Won the Super Bowl with John 2000 or 2012. That is where you know, it's like the Super Bowl. I'm not going to lie to you. It was a euphoria that I've never went through before. It was, you know, I know I'm supposed to say, you know, when I got married or when my daughter was born or when my son, it's nothing like it. When you're a true competitor and you love to compete, and it's just like just like last night, the Celtics. What did they say after the game? They were talking about the leadership of the team and the team chemistry. They always talk about that after you win something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's the same thing with the national championship last year. Like, Blake Corum come out to a camp and talk to kids yesterday. Was one of the best talks I've heard from a player, because he spoke from the heart.
Yeah.
And that's what you have here in Michigan, is guys who speak from the heart. And yet every year is different. You know, we know that, you know, like, instead of, you know, Road to Atlanta 11 on 11, you know, live periods that Jim had and Sharon has continued, you know, through spring ball or you know, the Beat Ohio period, you know, that we've had in 9-on-7s and things like that. Now people are doing that for Michigan, you know. And the thing about with these kids that they're going to find out is, you know, that it's going to be hard, but they're work. It's not like I'm not panicked. It's not like they're just sitting on their laurels. They want to do it again
Yeah.
by their leader, Sharon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's that the national championship's over with.
Yeah.
And there's going to be different dips in every season that you have. Even you know anybody that's done sport knows that.
Yeah.
And I just know that with the character and quality of leadership we have, we'll be able to face those things head on. The thing with that too, Jake, is you know last night they were talking about the great leadership, the great team chemistry. Go back 365 days when they didn't win it. They were talking about them like they were dogs. They need to trade
Yeah.
this guy, trade that guy. You know they got to change. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep.
And you know, and that's our industry that we're in. I understand all that,
Yeah.
but yet you could see the passion that that team played with. And I'm not a basketball fan. I'll watch the NBA when it's the finals, like it was. Um, but you could see who the best team was by far, won the trophy
No
by far.
doubt. No doubt.
And when you get guys and teams playing that way, as soon as you get players that are happier for other teammates' success, that's when you have something special.
Yeah.
On any team that you've had,
Yeah.
that's when you have something special. When your teammates happier for you because you did something, and the same thing with coaches. You
Yeah.
know, there's no me, I with the coaching staff. We're happy when our players make plays.
Yeah.
And I'm old enough now, I can say our kids. It's like it really is truly. That's why I've done it as long as I've had, excuse me. That's why I've done it as long as I have, is because I have pure enjoyment of watching kids succeed after they put in the work that they put in.
Yeah. You know, and I think it's even another parallel watching the finals. You know, the Celtics versus the Mavs, where the Mavs you hear Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic. The Celtics, of course, you hear Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, but you hear great team, great coach, and it's like a team versus isolation basketball, and that's a a good moment to reflect on. And Coach, we got a couple of viewer questions I want to get to.
Okay.
We've got some great comments in the chat, but I did want to ask you something because I have to ask you this, and this has to be asked. You mentioned, one of the first things you did was learning about Ohio State and watching that game. And I just love, for you, I know you've been around the program and you've been to pro days, but I think for Michigan, the Michigan community, these past 3 years, how much it has meant to them, because there was decades of pain and misery losing to the Buckeyes. And they say the word scum, and it had become a laughable instance for the Buckeyes and even those outside of the program. And I think what these past 3 years has done, as much as anything, is put the respect back on the Block M that you're wearing on your chest and that I'm wearing right here, this maize and blue. What's your impression of that rivalry, and what have you learned now coaching the Michigan team and being on campus?
Well, one of the advantages is I'm old enough. I remember the 10-year war. You know what I mean? And my high school coach, who's still coaching high school in Ohio, was a Ohio State graduate. And I've been to a Michigan Ohio State game myself. That's when I was coaching at Notre Dame. And this rivalry it's respectful, I think, between the players, as you can I see during
It
the
is.
game.
Oh, it really is.
Yeah.
Michigan State, I wouldn't say it's as Ohio State's.
No,
make no mistake about it. You want to win, and you're leaving everything on the field, but it is pretty respectful.
Yeah, I really think that they do, respect each other, but they want to kick each other's ass.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when I look back when I'm done, this is going to be a bucket list game. I coached at Baltimore for 10 years. I think the only rivalry left in the NFL is Pittsburgh and Baltimore. And I'd tell Mike Tomlin, who is a dear friend of mine, I'd much rather play 2 times in Pittsburgh at night in that rivalry game, just because of the setting.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with Ohio Ohio State, Michigan. There's
Yeah.
no better. I mean, like I know Charles, Charles Woodson. I know him. He and I were together in Oakland, and when I saw him with the stunner shades on after the interception, celebrating with the kids, I can't tell you the joy that gave me.
Yeah.
Because I knew how important it was to him, but yet the whole community, the Michigan community,
Yeah.
and uh, I've, you know, I grew up in Ohio. No one from, I mean, I got more texts from people like, I can't believe you're going to go coach at Michigan, which I love because I just stir the pot up,
Hmm.
and it's going to be a bucket list thing that I'm going to be glad that I did when we're all done. That
Yeah.
I got the opportunity to coach in this game.
Again, it's something that's bigger than yourself. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it really is.
That's the embodiment of culture.
Yeah,
Baltimore versus the Ravens versus the Steelers. It's the same
right.
thing.
And it's the same respect. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I won't even go down that road, but it's just like the team that wears green. That compared to like the Steelers playing Pittsburgh with Vontez Burfict.
Yeah.
That's right. I called a name out.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's not
Yeah.
the same.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's what the game's about is why you and I like it. Love it so much, Jake. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's what it's supposed to be about. And I could not wait to go to Columbus. Cannot wait to go there.
Yeah. There's a lot of things I get excited about, but there's not many. There's one or two that I get so emotionally invested in that I have to remind myself to breathe.
And that
Those
you're working.
rivalry games are that.
And that you're working.
And that I'm
Yeah.
working. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I gotta remember to breathe, I
Yeah.
can't wait to see, you coach against the Ohio State Buckeyes. I mean, they got a talented roster. They certainly feel like it's their year this year. And I've heard that before. And I cannot wait to see that matchup.
I mean, we're getting ready for Fresno.
Yep.
I know we have, to me, that's the thing too, and talking to everybody that's online here, is this is the closest to an NFL schedule that you can have in college football, what we have this year.
Oh yeah.
It's different.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's got to know that.
Yep. Yep.
As I say, Stevie Wonder can see that. And it's going to be a great challenge for these guys, but yet, and you talk about the Michigan way and preparing these kids for their next step in life. How better can you prepare them for, at the next level in football than this schedule? You
Oh
know what
yeah.
I mean? It's like I said, it's the closest thing you could have to an NFL schedule.
Yeah. Well, you know this. I mean, I was always told in the pre-draft process, first game we watch is Michigan State, Michigan, and now you got Texas, Michigan, Oregon, Michigan, Ohio State, Michigan. I mean, top 10, top 15 matchups. You get the chance, you get the opportunity. It's not a guarantee. You get the opportunity to prove how good you say you are. And what
Right.
more can you ask for in this game?
And don't think I haven't used that in recruiting.
Of course.
You know what I mean? Because like being in the league for 20 years, I know a lot of people they're going to throw in all these games because they know what we've done with our system in the NFL and what, Mike and Jesse have done leading up to it with these players. They're going to throw it. Michigan's going to be fun to evaluate. Defensively is what I'm speaking, with all the guys that we have.
Yeah.
They're going to be fun to evaluate because they know the system. They know what I look for. They know, the guys that how I use guys differently and everything else. And it's easy to evaluate. So they're always going to go to those type games first, and that's what I tell the players and, in recruiting.
A lot of talk about who's got an easy schedule and what about strategy with scheduling. And the truth is, the best thing about football, because of you talk about the Celtics winning the NBA Finals, that's a long schedule. MLB is a long season. The truth is about football is you can't lie to the game. You either win or you lose, and the opportunities are so finite. that you have to be at your best. You train all year to be at your best for 12 guaranteed games. You might get, if you're lucky and you play good enough, you get a conference championship. And now we got quarterfinals, semifinals, national championship. And you have to be at your best for those games.
No doubt.
The world will see how good you are. Make no mistake about it.
Make no mistake about it.
It's a beautiful thing.